Today I'm back with another tag video, and this is the Epistolary Query Tag. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome to my reading life and welcome to another tag video. Today I am doing the Epistolary Query Tag for Epistolary January. I was tagged by one of the creators of Epistolary January, the lovely Anne over at In Search of Wonder, and she tagged me in this tag created by the creators of Epistolary January, and I'll have a link to Anne's channel and her video answering all of these questions in the description box below. But for now, let's get into the questions and find out all of my answers to the epistolary query. I have all my questions here in front of me. The first question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel about epistolary novels in general? 1, you hate the genre, and 5, you love it. Well, I am probably a 5, or very, very close to a 5. I adore epistolary novels. I love novels written as letters. I love novels written in journal format. I love nonfiction letters and journals. I basically love it all. I love that real insider glimpse that you get into somebody's thoughts through letters and journal writing that is just not quite the same level of intimacy maybe that you get in a standard novel written in prose. Basically, I just want a sneak peek inside the mind of the writer through the epistolary format. And then follow-up question to that is, what is it about epistolary novels that you love? Well, I really love that intimacy, as I just said, getting deep into the minds of the characters themselves. And I love how you really get to see relationships from the inside, especially when you're seeing letters written back and forth, say between 2 people or 3 people or however many people are writing the letters. You just get a different sense of their relationship, like you're seeing it from the inside rather than looking at it from the outside. And I just really enjoy that perspective as something different than other types of novels written from third person or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, I really want to understand people, and I feel like the epistolary novel really helps me to do that. The next question is, what is your favorite adaptation of an epistolary novel? Or what epistolary novel would you like to see an adaptation of? I'm not sure that I've seen that many adaptations of epistolary novels. I've seen the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society adaptation, which I enjoyed, though I like the book better. And I cannot believe this, but I have never seen the adaptation of 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff, starring who is it? Anne Bancroft and Anthony Hopkins. And I've heard such wonderful things about it. So that is top of my adaptation need to watch list because I love this book. And I love this cover with the American mailbox and the British mailbox and all the postal stamps. Just lovely. This is just one of my editions of 84 Charing Cross Road. I have a few. So yes, so this is at the top of my want to watch. And then I can't think of any other epistolary novels that, other than maybe classics. I've seen Dracula, Frankenstein is written in letter format, so things like that I've seen, obviously, but I don't know. But I do have a couple of books that I think would make fantastic adaptations. The first is Business as Usual. This is by Jane Oliver and Anne Stafford. And this is about a young woman right after college. She decides to spend a year working in London. I forget what year this is, 1933. And she's going to get married, but she's going to do this year first. And she works at a department store that's a loosely disguised Selfridges. And it's just all about what she gets up to there. And it is just so lovely and charming, and I think it would make such a fun adaptation, either a movie or a miniseries. So BBC, if you're watching this, they're not, make this into an adaptation. And then I also think, I don't have my book handy, I packed it away with the rest of my Christmas books, but The Last Christmas in Paris, I think that would make a fantastic adaptation. That would be so good. Again, Please, BBC, will you make that one too? Oh, and one more. This would be like a fantastic TV series, and that would be The Diary of a Provincial Lady. Oh, would I watch this? Yes, 100%. I could see this being very domestic and cozy and funny and witty and just utterly charming. Again, BBC, are you listening? Please make this into an adaptation. So those are my books I'd like to see made into movies or TV shows. Then the next question is, what literary character do you wish you could correspond with? Of course, I couldn't pick just one. I had to pick two. And the first person I would love to correspond with would have to be Judith Dunbar from Coming Home. Love this Rosamund Pilcher story. I love Judith as a character. I feel like I would want to be friends with her, and I think it would be lovely to write letters back and forth with her and learn about her life through letters. So this would be my number one choice. And then next, I picked somebody else who I also want to be friends with and I want to live next door to. But if I can't live next door to her, then I want to correspond with her via letters. And that would have to be Carolyn Daring from Victoria Cottage by D.E. Stevenson. I feel like Carolyn and I are kindred spirits and I would love to correspond with her. So those are my two picks for who I would like to correspond with. The next question is, who is a character from history that you wish you could peek into their real, unedited, uncensored journal? Does Audrey Hepburn count as a person from history? Because if so, then that's my number one pick. If she doesn't, I mean, she is someone from history. She lived and she is a famous person and she lived a very interesting life outside of her life in Hollywood. She was a humanitarian and she lived through World War II and she carried notes for the underground movement when she was in Holland, I believe. And yes, so she lived a really fascinating life above and beyond her movies. So I would find it fascinating to hear about her life from her own words. If that's not quite enough of a historical figure for you, then my second choice is Edith Wharton. I have really gone down an Edith Wharton deep dive over the past little over a year. I read Summer by Edith Wharton in the summer of 2023, and then last year some friends and I began a Gilded Age buddy read group, and so reading with Susan and Elizabeth and Melissa, we have read a few Edith Whartons and some other Gilded Age novels as well, and we're continuing on with that. And I'm just fascinated by Edith Wharton and her life and how modern her writing felt. She did keep some travel journals. In fact, I have a nonfiction by her. I think it's called Motoring Through France. I'll put a picture of it here. It's out with my nonfiction books. But I don't think she kept a journal like just of her daily life in general. And that's something I would really, really like to read. So those are my two picks for people in history whose journals I would like to get a glimpse into. The next question is, what is your favorite literary letter? I'm going to give first an honorable mention, and that has to go to Captain Wentworth's letter in Persuasion. If you are reading along with my January read-along of Persuasion, and this is your first time reading Persuasion, we haven't quite gotten to Captain Wentworth's letter yet, where we are in our reading when this video is going live. But those of you who haven't read Persuasion, just you wait. It's really, really wonderful. And it's just one of the best parts of this book. So that's my honorable mention. But my actual favorite literary letter is Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus by Frances Pharcellus Church. This was actually first published as an editorial in a New York newspaper in, what year? 1887, in response to a young girl named Virginia writing in and asking, is there a Santa Claus? And if you have never read this letter, it is the most charming, wonderful letter about just the spirit of Christmas and of believing and of trusting in that belief. And I first read this letter when I was a young girl. I think it was in a collection of Christmas stories that my mom had given to me. And I read that letter over and over and over. It was so meaningful and impactful, and it always brings tears to my eyes when I read it. And if you've never read it before, I will try to find a link to it that you can read it online, and I'll put that in the description box below. It's very short, so you can just sit down and read it. It's just a few paragraphs, but it's so, so lovely. That is 100% my favorite literary letter. It's just wonderful. The next question is, which novel that is not an epistolary novel do you think would work well as one? I think there are a lot of books that would work well in the epistolary format, especially books written in the first person. Anne mentioned Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and I 100% agree with that. I think this would make a fantastic epistolary novel, and you could have Jane's letters to people that she knows and letters back from them. You could have letters from Mr. Rochester, from St. John, all kinds of people in the novel, and that would be a really interesting take on it. So I think this would be an interesting novel if it was epistolary. I mean, it's a fantastic novel. Either way, you should read it. But if it had been written in epistolary format, I think it would be just as wonderful. Another book that I think would make a fantastic epistolary novel would be The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. And this is about 4 women who rent a house, castle, manor type of a thing in Italy. They're from England and they go there on holiday and during April, and it's just all about them. But I think it would be really interesting if it was written in epistolary format, because I think you could get, again, that more intimate look into our 4 characters in here that you're a little bit removed from just from the style of the way this book is written. And I think in epistolary format, it would just be really kind of interesting to get that level of insight into those characters' minds. So that is my pick. The next question is, which epistolary novel do you wish you could relive again for the first time? Can I just say 84 Charing Cross Road for everything? I mean, definitely. Maybe my very favorite epistolary novel, or up there in my top 3 for sure. I think it's my favorite. It's so good, you guys. If you haven't read this, please read it. It's so slim and it's so lovely. If you're a book lover, you absolutely need to read this. But another book that I also wish I could relive again for the first time because it is so unique is LMNOP by Mark Dunn. This is such an interesting and uniquely formatted book. It's about the island of Nollop, which is off the coast of South Carolina, I believe. Yes. And it was founded or named after Nevin Nollop, who created the phrase that contains every letter of the alphabet. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And then a statue of Nevin Nollop on Nollop starts to lose letters from that famous phrase. Like the phrase is on the statue at the bottom, and the letters start dropping off. And every time a letter drops off, the island, council decides they can no longer use that letter as part of their language. So they start removing letters of the alphabet from the language. And as the book goes on, those letters are removed from the book itself. And I know that sounds crazy, but it is so fun and so funny and so incredibly clever. And I just love this. I need to reread it because this book is so, so good. So if you've never read LMNOP, this sat on my TBR shelf for so, so long. And I'm so glad I finally read it a few years ago because it is just the best. The next question is, if you were a character in an epistolary novel, what would your stationery look like? 100% it would be personalized with either my full name or my initials. I love personalized things, I think, because growing up in the 70s and 80s as a Jennifer, during that time period, personalized things like bracelets, t-shirts with your name on it, anytime you went anywhere and there was like a souvenir, like a keychain or a bumper sticker or one of those little license plates you could get to put on your bicycle, they never had Jennifer. It was always sold out. Jennifer, Jenny, in any format, spelled any which way, they never had it in stock. And so I was always disappointed. I would always look to see if they had my name, and there would be the slot, and there would never be anything in it. So now I'm very, very drawn to personalized items. And now sometimes you can't find Jennifer because it's just not a popular name anymore. And so it's not there with those personalized items. But anytime I would actually find a Jennifer or a Jenny left, I would snatch that up because it was so rare that you could find personalized items. So definitely my stationery would be personalized. Yes, I'm not sure exactly. Probably have something bookish on it, maybe like a photo or an embossing of a stack of books and a cup of tea. Kind of like my Jen's Reading Life logo. I'll put that here so you can see. Maybe something like that on my stationery. Yes, I think that's probably what it would look like. The next question is, what is the first epistolary novel you can remember reading? That's taking me way back, you guys. I'm going to say maybe Anne Frank, The Diary of Anne Frank, might have been one of the first that I read. And I know that's in diary format, so not necessarily letters. Also, Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. I'm not sure what year that came out. I think that I was getting a little bit older, I believe, when that book was published, but I know I read it. Yeah, so honestly, I don't know. I don't feel like the epistolary novel was super popular in children's books when I was growing up. At least not that I can recall. All of the books I think of that were formative to my early reading years weren't written in the epistolary format. I originally thought Anastasia Krupnik, but I was looking back at my copy and it's not actually written in like journal format, even though at the end of each chapter there is like a list that she keeps in her notebook of like things she loves and things she hates. And I loved that. I love lists of any kind in books or any kind of writing. And I love to keep lists myself. So, but I don't know that Anastasia Krupnik counts as epistolary because it's written just in standard prose. And it might even be from third person. So anyway, yeah, so probably The Diary of Anne Frank was the first one. Two final questions. Which literary character in an epistolary novel or otherwise would you write to for advice? I think I have three people that I would write to. The first would be Hannah Coulter from Hannah Coulter. I just feel like she has a lot of wisdom about living life, and I think it would be really lovely to correspond with her and ask for advice. And then Marmee from Little Women. Again, lots of wisdom there, lots of comfort, I think. And I think Marmee would give excellent advice. And then I was also thinking maybe Penelope Keeling from The Shell Seekers. I think her advice may be interesting because she's lived a really interesting life. And again, she has a certain sort of wisdom from where she's looking back on her life in The Shell Seekers. And I think that I could benefit from the advice of those three characters. So those are my picks. And then the final question, which isn't really a question, but that is to tag two channels to do this tag. And I am going to tag my co-host of the Cozy Reader Book Club, Rebecca from Rebecca of Wilson Hill. And then I'm also going to tag Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes. I would love to see both of you do this tag if you're up for it. And of course, anyone else who is watching this video, please feel free to respond to this tag and do a video of your own, because I think it's really fun, especially if you love epistolary novels like I do. And that wraps up the Epistolary Query Tag. Thank you again to Anne from In Search of Wonder for tagging me to do this. It was really, really fun. And I would love to chat with you all in the comments. Do you guys like epistolary novels? Do you not like epistolary novels? Why or why not? Or feel free to answer any of the questions in this tag with your answers. Also, let me know, can you think of any other TV or movie adaptations of epistolary novels? Because I really couldn't think of anything other than The Guernsey and 84 Charing Cross Road. So let me know if you have any other thoughts on that or any of the other questions. I love to chat with you down in the comments. But if you don't really feel like you have anything to say in the comments, please leave a little envelope emoji and let me know that you were here and that you made it this far in the video. Comments really do help my channel, and I appreciate you leaving that little emoji note for me. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. I would love to have you join my bookish community, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye!